Stepping up to the plate on the Worst Baseball Podcast is your host, Matthew. That's me, and then Noah.
That's it.
I said I'm still working on the intro.
That was the most unenthusiastic. There's Matthew and Noah.
I said I was working on the intro. I never said it was good.
We don't have to start with an argument. But
there's gonna be plenty of arguing.
We'll watch the tape. That wasn't.
Okay, we'll see. We'll get some viewer feedback.
Okay.
Should he be included in the intro more?
I mean, it was just tone. It was more tone.
It was more tone.
I was included. It was just like you sounded disappointed. You were so happy too. You're like, oh, podcast.
Yeah.
I'm so excited. It's me.
Stepping up to the plate because it's a baseball thing.
No, that's not
but
my
only
issue.
one player can go up to the plate at a time. That's kind of what I'm getting at. So I'll go up first, and you'll go up second.
Okay, I'd rather be a two-hitter anyway. More ribby opportunities.
It's true, but I'm going to be getting on base. Okay, let's not bore.
You walk a lot?
I walk a lot.
Okay, good eye.
Thank you.
You got Max Muncy over here.
Juan Soto. Coming at you today, episode numero cuatro of the Worst Baseball Podcast. It's our predictions episode, in a way. We predict things all the time, but today's specifically dedicated to predictions. First, coming at you with 3 bold predictions for the season, the rest of the season, something that we think is going to happen that's a little bit outlandish. Could be big, could be small.
Second half of the season now, trade deadline's coming. This is where things start to heat up, so our predictions are going to start to heat up a little.
For sure. And then we're going to jump into in or out on the playoff race. Both divisions, both the American League and the National League, have pretty tight races right now, especially in that wild card spot. So we're addressing every team as of right now, 5:56 p.m. on Tuesday in a wild card spot. If they're in the division lead, we're not talking about them today. Just wild card spot. That's going to be a rapid fire segment. We're going to have 60 seconds each to pitch our case, whether we think the team currently sitting in a playoff hunt spot, whether they're in a wild card or within a few games of there, is going to make the playoffs. And then we're going to close things out. I asked you, the followers on Instagram earlier today, to submit some hot takes of your own, and we're just gonna we chose our 3 favorite, and we're going to address those quickly. No silly draft today.
No draft.
We're gonna take a 1-week break from the draft, but we'll be back with a fun one next week.
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it. First, I think I want the people to know the story of the shirt. Real quick.
Okay, I'll intro the shirt here. So I got this shirt, last year's Hawaiian Baltimore Orioles shirt, for anybody just listening. Got the shirt in an Orioles game last year. I think I left it in a friend's house, or backpack, for 1 year. Then somehow my roommate got it, and I noticed in my roommate's closet it was there the other day, so I asked for it. Not to go too into specifics and rodents, but I am going to go into rodents. There was a mouse in our apartment for a long time, terrorizing my roommate's room where the shirt was. I took it back the other day, and I noticed there's a little bite.
Oh, there's a hole.
There's a hole, which is a bite, and it's a small nibble, and I think it came from a mouse.
It looks like a little rat fink type hole.
Putting this on, I don't feel clean, but I do it for you guys. But basically, a mouse took a bite out of my Orioles Hawaiian shirt. That's a crazy sentence.
A few nibbles. That is a ridiculous sentence.
Yeah, it took more than a few nibbles. It was a hungry mouse.
What was it? It doesn't look like it would taste very good.
It's orange. Maybe you thought it was like a creamsicle.
I don't know. I think junior year of college, I had a donut in a box in my room for several weeks, much longer than you should keep a donut in a box in a room. It was a small box, like a 1 donut box.
A 1 donut box?
A 1 donut box.
Like not a pack of 6?
No. It was
an individual donut?
An individual donut.
I would think that comes in a bag.
It was from my dining hall. It was during COVID, so it was definitely junior year.
Doesn't seem very efficient.
The donut slowly started disappearing in the box, and I was like, "What's happening here? This donut is disappearing."
Was the box open?
I thought it was it was closed. It was closed. The box was closed.
The mouse was in the box?
Well, I didn't know there was a mouse at the time. I thought there was some sort of Matrix shit happening with the donut, and it was just disintegrating.
Can I say where you went to school? Should I not? His school is synonymous with ghosts, so it's possible.
It's true. Yes, it's exactly. This is my thought exactly. So I'm like, oh my god. My donut's haunted. There's a ghost coming in here and slowly eating my donut.
That would be my first thought.
And I hadn't touched the box, and then I picked the box up, and a mouse had chewed fully through it and revisited the donut throughout the course of several weeks.
All right, last question, and then we'll get into stuff. What kind of donut? Strawberry?
I think it was a chocolate donut with sprinkles. Okay. A chocolate frosted donut with sprinkles.
I needed to know. That's not very bold of a donut. Chocolate. But
I don't think my dining hall had particularly
it didn't have bold
varied
options.
options.
Well, we have bold options.
We do have that was a good transition. That's a very good transition. You were going for that.
I was going for that.
You didn't even care what kind of
You didn't pick up on it. We got to work on that a little bit. But
okay, bold prediction number one. Take it away. I feel like I snubbed you in the intro, so go ahead. Bold prediction number one.
All right, my first bold prediction. The trade deadline is next week.
Sure is.
My first bold prediction, the Chicago Cubs will not be sellers. We've heard this entire season, and especially this past month, no doubt, the Cubs are selling. Where's Stroman going? Where's Bellinger going? The Cubs are only 5 games back of the wild card.
Mm-hmm.
The Cubs are not a bad baseball team. That might be the bold take in itself. They're not that bad of a baseball team. They're kind of in the playoff hunt. And the real thing here is Cody Bellinger and Marcus Stroman. They're 2 main trade pieces. Both have half a year left on their deal. I think it would be wise. I think they have a very good chance. The Cubs have kind of rejuvenated Cody Bellinger's career. We know he got DFA'd by the Dodgers last offseason. I think he's played in big cities. I think he wants to stay. I'm not so much sure on Marcus Stroman, but I think there's legitimate possibility of re-signing both those guys. And maybe it makes sense to just build around those guys. You don't have a bad farm system. The Cubs have a plus 41 run differential. They're not a bad baseball team.
That's a lot better than teams that are ahead of them even.
Exactly what I was going to say. That they're better. That's a better run differential than the Phillies, the Marlins, the Brewers, the Reds, the D-backs, and the Giants. Basically, every team ahead of them besides the Dodgers and the Braves. The obvious.
And run differential doesn't tell you the whole story.
No, it doesn't.
You blowout games. You have games where close losses.
It's true.
But
no, that's fair. But it just said they're a better team than their record states at the moment, and that 5-game gap. I don't think they play the White Sox this week, I wouldn't be surprised if that gap lowers. I mean, I don't think they have some arms in their farm system.
Arms in the farm.
They have the easiest remaining schedule in the National League. The only team with a harder schedule in the Major League, in the league, is the Chicago White Sox.
Easier schedule?
Easier schedule. They have a pretty easy schedule. I mean, they're going to play the Brewers and the Reds a lot. They're going to play, I know they have series in September versus the Giants and the Diamondbacks. They have opportunities to make up ground. And I don't think their farm system, I don't know, how much are you getting for half a year Cody Bellinger and half a year Marcus Stroman?
It's more than you get for nothing.
It's more than you get for nothing, but I think it makes sense, especially with Bellinger, to just kind of try to build around him. And I'm not saying they're going to make the playoffs this year, but they have a decent farm system. They have Pete Crow Anderson. They have 2 arms, that are pretty good.
I believe it's called Armstrong.
Yeah, Armstrong. PCA.
PCA.
I don't think they have Morel. They have a nice core of pitchers this year. I don't think it's a crazy take to say the Chicago Cubs are not selling. And I don't know if they're going to make the playoffs, but I think they're going to be in the thick of it. And I would not be shocked to see the Chicago Cubs, which I just didn't think up until about a month ago, but they've been playing decent baseball, over 500 the last 30 games. I think the Chicago Cubs are not selling, and I think Marcus Stroman, and especially Cody Bellinger, will be Chicago Cubs come August 2nd.
It's an interesting take. It's a hot take, which is what we're going for. We're going for bold predictions. Speaking of things that are hot, a lot of cities in the United States are hot right now, but especially the ones in the southern part of the United States. San Diego is in the very southern part of California.
Well, I thought, okay, true.
It's not in the south.
I was thinking south.
It's still hot in San Diego this time of year.
It is.
Blake Snell pitches for the San Diego Padres. Blake Snell is hot. He's a very hot arm right now. And he's leading the National League in ERA. The last time he led the league in which he was pitching, you know what happened that year when he was leading that league in ERA?
Did he win the Cy Young?
He won the Cy Young. That was in 2018 with the Rays. My hot take is that Blake Snell continues this hot pace and wins the National League Cy Young. Let me just wrap out some quick stats for you. 2.67 ERA. That leads the league. 153 ERA plus, that leads the league. My only concern is the fielding independent pitching is a 3.65 right now. That indicates that he should not be quite pitching at this level, but I would guarantee you if we looked at that just over the past couple months, it would be a lot better. I don't think there's a hotter pitcher in baseball right now than Blake Snell.
I agree.
Blake Snell is just like next level right now. He's tapped in to that Rays ace that we hadn't seen quite yet in his tenure with San Diego. Last season, 3.38, a respectable ERA, but still not Cy Young quality. In 2021, 4.20 ERA. We're seeing peak Blake Snell right now, and I think that the NL race is wide enough open. Everybody's saying Zach Allen is a lock. Zach Allen is a lock. Spencer Strider isn't far behind. But Zach Allen has been very solid this season. And if you listen a few episodes ago, I praised Zach Allen with very, very high praise. But he's been consistent. He hasn't been spectacular. He hasn't been dominant in the same way that Blake Snell has been dominant. Spencer Strider strikes out a shit ton of players, but he also has not kept the ball in the
Gives
park.
up a shit ton of home runs.
Blake Snell is doing everything on all fronts. He's still walking batters, but he's keeping them on base, not letting them score. He's striking players out. I don't think there's a better pitcher in baseball right at this very moment than Blake Snell.
I don't think that's a crazy take. I mean, a firing Blake Snell is as unhittable of a pitcher as there is in the league.
The Snellzilla.
The Snellzilla. It's just nasty when he's got that, he's walking around all confident, he's shaking his body. Like, the curveballs are...
his body.
No, but the way
his body.
Okay, let's not do this again. I know where the comments went last time. I refrain. I plead the fifth. Just when he's walking around, he's got that moxie. He's got that swagger on the mound right now. I mean, the breaking ball is disgusting. It's unhittable. You touched on the only concern for me, which is the walks, and we know the whip is pretty high, and who knows if that's sustainable. He's got the best ERA in the league right now. He's got the best ERA over the last 30 days. He's striking out more guys than basically anybody besides Strider in the league and maybe a few others. But yeah, I don't think and the NL race is wide open. It's wide open. It's Strider, it's Gallons, the guys he said. Maybe it's a Luzardo. Burns could get back into it, but it's wide open. I don't think that's a crazy take. He's been as good as anybody in the league. Really, for the large part of the season.
For sure, and I think we're seeing I think we're going to see the award races go a very similar trajectory to the playoff races this season. Teams that were hot at the beginning of the season, your Tampa Bays, and then some players that were hot at the beginning of the season, like even Gallen started off very hot. Not necessarily sustaining through the season. That's why you play the long haul. That's why 2020 is fake. Take it away with your number 2.
2020 is not fake. Can you just remind me who won the World Series in 2020?
I'm pretty sure it was Tampa.
No, that's wrong. He's a casual. Oh, he runs a podcast. He's a casual.
I don't even know anything about what is the World Series.
Yeah, you wouldn't know as a Yankee fan. But you named an incredibly hot player, Blake Snell. He is in a zone. Gunnar Henderson is in a zone right now.
He is zoning.
He is racing up the charts to win AL Rookie of the Year out of seemingly nowhere. He was not in the race.
He made some good tinks.
Made some good tinks.
Very
good tinks in the swing. My second hot take. I love Gunnar Henderson as a player. I think Gunnar Henderson, from this point on, mark it down. Today is July 25th, 2023. From this point on, remaining in the regular season, Gunnar Henderson will lead all AL infielders in OPS for the rest of the regular season. This guy is just absolutely on fire, and I'm buying it. I'm buying it as a long-term thing. Maybe he's not going to maintain the pace he's on in the last 15 games, but I am buying the fact that this guy's a perennial all-star and he's going to be a stud from here on out the rest of his career. Last 15 games, 911 OPS. That is crazy high. He's top 10 in most hard hit balls for his last 100 at-bats. He's barreling the ball at an elite level. He's a 5-tool player. I mean, we've seen it. He's got speed. He's got strength, power. He's a defenseman. He can make some incredible defensive plays. A heck of an arm. Can play the entire left side of the infield. I mean, the guy is a star, and he is he's the guy I think the Orioles are building around maybe more than Adley Rutschman. I know it's not a competition, but I think he's the face of their franchise at this point. I think he's just going to...
Can they be a duo?
They can be a duo, and it's not a competition, like I said.
A Jeter-Posada type?
Yeah, but I'm saying it... Yeah, it's a Jeter-Posada. I like that. You know what?
Sweet.
I like that.
Nice.
He's better than Derek Jeter. What? No, I'm just kidding.
Okay.
Don't clip that for my... I don't want anybody to call me a dork. He's a 5-tool player. The exit velocity is elite right now. The speed is elite right now. The only thing he's not doing well is he's striking out a lot. That happens for rookies. I think he could hit 30 home runs this year. The other thing is he's settling into his role. We saw him come up at the end of last year, then go back down. Now we saw him, he's playing third and short. He has 20 plate appearances, batting first, batting fourth, batting fifth, batting sixth, batting seventh. He's all around, and he's a spark plug, and I think he's really settling into the major leagues. And we've kind of seen that, this summer. And I think this guy's just going to be a total stud the rest of the year. That's why I wore the shirt. Here's the mouse bite. I finally found it. This is a small hole. There are no holes in Gunnar Henderson's game. You like that one?
That was a good transition.
Oh, thank you.
While you were talking, I was thinking of my transition as well. Gunnar Sanderson, very, very high young player, very talented, a lot of promise. People say he's, going to be, potential face of MLB type player on a team that has World Series potential, World Series hopes. Just a few years ago, we saw that with a team who hadn't won a World Series in a very long time, the Chicago Cubs. A player on that team who was in a similar scenario to Gunnar Henderson was none other than Javier Baez.
Good transition.
Thank you.
8 out of 10.
Wow. Thank you.
7.5.
Okay. Javier Baez, unlike Gunnar Henderson, sucks cheeks. My hot take is that despite signing his big contract not very long ago, Javier Baez will be designated for assignment by the Detroit Tigers by
DFA.
season's end.
What a fall.
Has been atrocious. He has a 66 OPS plus. Let's let that sink in. League average OPS plus is 100. Javier Baez, on a 100 scale, is on a 66. That's horrible. For an everyday shortstop, I'm surprised that his baseball reference WAR is even at 0.5, and that's only because his defense has taken a step forward this year. If he was hitting this badly and defending as badly as he did last year, holy guacamole. He's gone.
And he's terrible. He's a terrible player.
And he's 30 years old, which is traditionally peak for a Major League Baseball player. I don't know what happened to Javi Baez. I've put him in detention a couple times this season trying to analyze what happened. It's been impossible. I mean, last year people were calling for his head, and he had a 92 OPS plus. He's a 66! 66! He's Route 66 in his way all the way to the Iowa Cubs at the very best, and probably some, I don't know, team in Japan or Mexico. I don't even know. He's horrible. The Tigers have absolutely no reason to keep him around aside from the fact that they paid him all that money. I don't know. I'm not too familiar with the Tigers farm system, but I guarantee you he's blocking somebody with at least a little bit more promise than he's got at this point in his career. And it's terrible. There's no reason to keep him around. I can't imagine Detroit fans like going and seeing him play every day. He's really like rubbing the salt in the wound of how terrible the Detroit Tigers are. Yeah, Javi Baez DFA by the end of the season.
Now, let me ask you a question. Do you think the Tigers, they could go back in time, in 2020 hindsight, do you think they would offer him a 6-year, $140 million contract again? Obviously not.
I was going to say if they were like on some really crazy drugs.
No, I was joking. No, I mean, I don't think his play, if we were strictly going off play, he would have been DFA'd a year ago. And obviously there are other factors, the contract, the state of the Tigers, the sheer embarrassment the ownership would have by cutting ties with him.
What's more embarrassing though?
No.
Loose and letting everybody forget about him, or keeping him around for the next 4 years?
Both. It's not an enviable scenario. I don't think it's crazy.
MVP runner-up in 2018, and now he's like literally the worst player in the league.
The fall is insane. He got his bag, and at least he made his money. But it's incredible how bad he is right now, and he's not even. The locker room, it doesn't even seem like it's going well. Him and AJ Hinch, I know he got it benched a few times earlier this year. Yeah, I agree. I think at this point, they just need to own their mistake.
I just realized.
And the relationship.
I just realized they said he'd get sent down to the Iowa Cubs. He's not on the Cubs anymore, which I obviously acknowledge. Who is AAA for Detroit?
I have no.
That's a great question.
Idea. If it was a relevant franchise.
I think it's the Erie Seawolves.
Okay.
They might be AA. Anyway, very relevant. Take it away with hot take number 3 by Noah.
All right, my hot take, just looking at it right now, I don't know, it's kind of a two-parter. I don't know if it's the craziest take in the world, but just the narrative in general about, all right, I'm just going to say
Where are you going?
I can't speak.
You're stuttering, you're stammering.
I'm stammering. Shout out Craig Stammen. Former MLB reliever.
Yes, I'm familiar.
You're not going to give him a shout out?
Shout out Craig Stammen.
Okay, thank you.
Is he former? I thought he was just injured.
I have no idea. I haven't heard that name.
He's still knocking around.
He feels former. Let's look up Craig Stammen.
I believe he's just hurt.
What team is
he
he on?
He's not going to be happy that you shouted him out and then called him former if he's actually.
He's 39, so I would be shocked if he's still pitching.
I think he's still signed to the Padres.
Yeah, he hasn't thrown a pitch this year, but he's still in the Padres. All right.
Incredibly irrelevant. Shout out Craig Stammen.
I have no segue to my hot take anymore. Aaron Boone, Buck Showalter will both be fired. Will not return to their respective teams next year. The Yankees and Mets, I mean, just they're matching blow for embarrassment. I know the Mets are probably a little bit more embarrassing and considering the payroll and the expectations, but
I mean, the Yankees payroll is right there.
the Yankees payroll is right there. I mean, I don't think there's a Yankees fan on this planet that wants Aaron Boone to be the manager next year if the season continues to go the way it does for the Yankees, except maybe his son. I don't know if he has kids. Someone related to him. Aaron Boone, I mean, it's time to cut. What are the Yankees waiting for? I don't know how he was their manager before. I don't know how he wasn't fired in the last few years. There were multiple opportunities. It's not working out. He's clearly, the relationship with fans is severed. They don't seem to see eye to eye. I mean, it's a disappointing season, and it's almost seems like too easy of a move. I don't get it if you're Brian Cashman and there's so much pressure on you that you make this move that I think makes baseball sense and would appease fans, and you keep not doing it, and it adds added pressure to the team that you're keeping this core around and they're failing year after year. Aaron Boone, I think there needs to be a change of scenery there. I have no idea what direction they go, but I think Aaron Boone is fired, and then Buck Showalter. I know it's only year 2, and year 1 was a decent one. This is probably the bolder take. I just don't think. I think this year, Steve Cohen is not afraid. If it was any other owner, I think Buck Showalter would be back. But Steve Cohen is going to do what he has to do to shift blame off himself because he's Steve Cohen, and he doesn't want to look in the mirror. And the Mets are the embarrassment of the MLB this season. They're the laughingstock. They're the Mets. I mean, we talked about cursed franchises before, and this season they have so much money tied up in these old starters, and you know, things are just not going well, and there needs to be a scapegoat. And maybe it's not fair. Obviously, Buck Showalter hasn't had a great year, but I don't think either of those guys, considering the state of being an underachieving team in New York, spending a lot of money, will be back with their clubs next year.
I gotta agree with you. I mean, I don't think either of those are really like insanely bold, especially Boone. I mean, as much as Yankee fans are blaming Aaron Boone, I really can't say it's entirely his fault. No, he doesn't know how to manage a bullpen. No, I don't think he creates the best clubhouse culture. The best thing I can say about Aaron Boone is he stands up for his players. That's about it. The real problem there with the Yankees is the upper management, is the front office. Brian Cashman needs to go because he has built a team that is Aaron Judge. You might as well call him the New York Judge. The New York Judge. Because there's nothing on that team that's inspiring aside from Aaron Judge. You know, Garrett Cole, ace, obviously, but like, you know, you paid Norman a leg for him. That's what you expect. You know, they haven't developed players for a decade. They haven't made good free agent signings. They haven't made good trades. This team is going nowhere until something seriously shifts. And Yankees fans, I said it last episode when we were talking about trades, they're impatient. They're very, very impatient. So something's got to change. Something's got to change quickly. Shake it all up. Buck Showalter has absolutely no idea how to manage his rookies. It took him like 6 to 9 weeks to start playing Francisco Alvarez not in the 9-hole.
That's crazy. I mean, we saw it right away.
Him. I mean, it's ridiculous. Bucks, we've seen the past few years, like with, you know, Tony La Russa, like these old managers, these old washed-up guys who left baseball management and then came back. They just don't know how to play with these. They just don't know how to coach these young players.
You're right.
It's a total disconnect. I think that Buck Showalter probably needs to go, but let's just acknowledge 1 second how tumultuous the Mets' managerial history in recent years has been. I mean, it's insane. I mean, it's the Mets. You can't expect anything else. My bold prediction, number 3, is Mickey Moniak of the Los Angeles Angels wins AL Player of the Month in August. I love Mickey Moniak. I think he's actually a very good player. I've been high on him since he was drafted in 2016. Of players on the Angels, he is ranked 3rd in wins above replacement this season, behind only Trout and Ohtani. He's been playing out of his mind so far this season. He's got a 161 OPS plus. I know I'm referencing OPS plus a lot on this episode, but it's true. He's got a 2.3 WAR, batting 331. He's hitting for power. He's hitting for average. He's getting on base. He's driving runners in. What more do you want? He's swinging a hot bat. He's young. He's cool. Obviously, he was the number 1 overall pick several years ago. He has promise. He has potential. I mean, people were very quick to call Mickey Moniak a bust, but he was an 18-year-old when he was drafted. You can't expect anything from an 18-year-old, you know, aside from your once-in-a-lifetime type of talent to come up and be good all of a sudden. He never got serious playing time in Philly, but now that Trout is out, he's played 47 games this season. That's already more than any other single season in his career. I think Mickey Moniak is a very talented player. and I think he can keep up this hot streak. And this is just going to complicate the situation with the Angels in a time where all we're talking about is Shohei Ohtani. Is he going to be traded? I think Mickey Moniak is going to come in and distract some people from that headline, whether it manifests in a trade or not, and win American League Player of the Month in August.
Do you have a month prediction? August, okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure. September. All right. I mean, I would say I think that's the boldest prediction you have yet, but at the same time, I think it's the prediction I disagree with the most. I just don't see it. I don't see the BABIP is incredibly high. It's 441 on the year.
Not necessarily a bad thing.
Not necessarily a bad thing, but I think maybe it'll come. Some of those numbers, that OPS plus, I don't think it's going to be at 160 at the end of the year. I'll say that. I will say, I mean, I'm enjoying the Mickey Moniak kind of this back from the dead, this rise from the dead year. He's so young, this surge. I mean, yeah, obviously, anytime there's a player with huge expectations and it doesn't really work out right away, you kind of feel for them. That's a lot of pressure for an 18-year-old.
Absolutely.
As you said, I'm happy he got out of Philly. That was a terrible trade for the Phillies for half a year of Noah Syndergaard.
Did they get Brandon Marsh in that trade too? I think they did.
Really? I thought it was just Syndergaard.
I'm pretty sure Marsh went over in that one as well.
If so,
I'll
then
look it up. You can keep talking.
Okay. No, I mean, I would love to see that from Mickey Moniak. I don't know. He had that one incredible month, but...
Oh, no, that was for Logan O'Hoppe.
Okay. Oh, that's an interesting trade. Yeah, I think it was just Moniak for Syndergaard. I would love to see that happen. I mean, if you told me you'll give me $100. If it doesn't, I'll give you $1 if it does. I would take that. That's how confident I am in it. But
all right.
I like the boldness. And yeah, the Angels might need some other players to be in the spotlight come August 2nd. Could be him.
We're here to be bold, but we're also here to be fast. We're going to go in or out on playoff teams. I'm pulling up my clock right now. We got 60-second timer.
Quick, rapid fire.
Rapid fire. Pitch in our cases. We're going in order. American League, top of the wild card race to the bottom of the wild card race. American League and the National League. We're going to start with the Tampa Bay Rays. I feel like going first, so I'm going to do it. 1 minute on the clock right now. The Tampa Bay Rays, they're in for me. 98.4% chance. They could still win this division, you know? I'm not counting them out completely. The Orioles hop it, you know, whatever. There's too much talent on this team to miss here. They've proven this season that they can get it done. There's 2 MVP candidates in Wander Franco and Yoni Diaz. Randy Arozarena is not far behind, even if he, you know, gets lazy on occasion. 4 starting pitchers with an ERA plus above 110. Very solid bullpen. Their whole pitching staff is pitching by committee. It's working. The formula is working. Every team goes through its ebbs and flows, but I just don't see a scenario where Tampa Bay is going to fall off hard enough to completely miss the playoffs. I'd say at the absolute basement, absolute floor for them this season, they'll find themselves in the 3rd wild card spot, and that would be a very dramatic fall. Again, almost a guarantee for the playoffs according to the odds right now, 98.4% chance. I think they're just too good to miss. You know, obviously they did not get, their hot streak did not continue, and there we are.
Time.
Yeah, I almost finished my thought. Go ahead.
I mean, I agree with most of what you said. I think they're just too many games up at this point. Obviously, they're not playing great baseball, 10 and 20 in their last 30 games, but they're too many games up on the wild card race. There's too much talent there. I mean, they got the elite arms at the front of the rotation. You know, they have their three all-stars in the lineup. Yeah, I think they're just too many games up. I'm a little concerned with the offense sometimes. I'm a little concerned with the injuries to their starters. You know, I don't know if they're going to handle Taj Bradley, who's been an important piece in their rotation, any differently because kind of the Yuri Perez kind of innings management. But their arms are gassed. They have a decent schedule, but I think they're just too many games up. I agree with you. I think Tampa, could they fall to the 5 seed? I could see it. Could it Texas or Houston, whoever doesn't win that division, catch them? I don't think that's out of the question, but they're too talented, too many games up. They're going to make the playoffs.
So we have 8 seconds to spare. Our next team, you just mentioned them, the Houston Astros. Start that clock. The World Series hangover is over. I don't need to go into detail about the lineup. You know who's on that team. They can hit. They can really, really hit. Their pitching staff is decimated. It's been decimated all season, but they're making it work. J.P. France has been really good. I love what I've been seeing from him and some of those other young guys in that rotation. They're certainly going to make the playoffs, but I don't think it's enough with that rotation in its current condition to make a deep run. I've been proven wrong before. The Astros have that potential. They have that catch fire potential, and they have the playoff experience. Not necessarily pitching staff, but they do. They can make a splash for start at the deadline that could change that rotation completely, change the dynamic and make them World Series favorites once again. But I'm not ready to write Houston out. They're in for me. They could still win the division. If it's not them here in this wild card spot, it's going to be the Rangers. So either way, I have Houston and Texas both in the playoffs. 10 seconds to spare. Go ahead.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, this team's too talented to miss the playoffs, I think. I know there's a lot of teams in contention, but I don't see the Houston Astros missing the playoffs. In fact, I think I'll go one step further. I think the Astros are going to win the division. Not necessarily that Texas is going to fall off, but those two teams are just playing very well. Only 2 games back. They have kind of that experience. Their only concern is the arms. I mean, Chaz Bonds, if Jazz McCormick keeps playing like this.
Chaz Bonds.
Yeah. I mean, they have so much talent offensively. They have the experience. They have a decent bullpen. I think they'll be in the market for a start or two. I wouldn't be surprised to see them add to their rotation. I mean, I haven't given up on Christian Javier.
Me neither.
So I think for sure 18 and 12 in their last 30 games. I think they'll win the division, and if not, they'll be the 4 seed, or maybe the worst case scenario 5 seed, but they're making the playoffs.
All right. Next up is the Toronto Blue Jays. This is my first hard out for me. It's just my gut feeling that not all 3 teams that hold a spot right now are going to find themselves in the playoffs come season's end. The bottom third of the order is weaker than we expected. We got Dalton Varsho, who is, everybody was like, oh, this is a genius trade from the Rays. Has not worked out. Kevin Kiermaier doesn't spark any inspiration for me. Same with Brandon Belt. They just don't excite me. Alejandro Kirk has been disappointing this season after a very strong surge last year. Matt Chapman is the team leader in wins above replacement, but he's still cooled off. We're not talking about him in the same way that we were at the beginning of the season. I don't want to take away from their pitching because aside from Alek Manoah, it has really been very good. But the lineup just is not the powerhouse I expected. Even Vladdy Jr. is having a solid year. He's not doing what he was doing, a couple of years ago when he was, MVP candidate. So I'm going hard out on the Blue Jays for me. It's a very competitive division, very competitive race. I got to cut my strings somewhere.
All right. I'll do it. I'll be the boring one. I'm going to take every team currently in the playoffs to stay there. I think Toronto makes it. I think I had the most hesitancy of the teams I've said so far in Toronto. But I think they just got too much talent to miss the playoffs. Vlad's bat is picking up a little bit post All-Star break. He's hit a few home runs the last week. I mean, they just played consistent, good baseball the entire year. They really haven't had any massive, terrible losing streaks or bad stretches. I don't think there's really any reason to think that changes. And you did mention the AL East. That's a tough division, but take out the AL Central where, Cleveland and Detroit are playing each other all the time and all these teams are playing each other. They have the easiest remaining schedule of any other team in the AL. I think they're going to make the playoffs. I think their lineup, their starters have been very good at the top of that rotation. They got big bats. I think they make the playoffs.
Next up is the Boston Red Sox, and they're actually my surprise in. They're probably the most underrated squad in baseball, in my opinion. Paxton and Bello, whatever his name is, even Cutter Crawford, those 3 guys have been sneaky top tier this season, like really solid pitching. They've got absolutely no depth at all. But we're not talking playoffs. We're just talking about whether they're going to get in. Devers' defense sucks, but man, can he hit. Verdugo, Duran, Connor Wong are all names that we've barely heard about this season, but they've combined 7 wins above replacement, and that's not even talking about Yoshida and Justin Turner. They're a sneaky, scrappy team with the hardest strengths of schedule remaining in baseball, but I like them a lot. They're getting no press. Nobody's talking about them, and that's exactly why I think the Boston Red Sox are going to find themselves in the playoff picture. They did just trade Kike Hernandez, but honestly, the way he's been playing, I think that's a good thing. Good trade for both teams. You're up, Red Sox.
The notorious small market, under the radar Boston Red Sox.
Right, but still, nobody's talking about them.
Well, I've told you every one of my playoff teams, so all these teams are going to be no for me.
Fair.
The reasoning is, you mentioned Paxton and Bello. I don't think there's enough pitching. They don't have the depth, and although Paxton and Bello have been great, and I'm not taking anything away from those guys, that's still not an elite 1-2 at the top of your rotation, even when they're firing on all cylinders. It's almost like, Cole and Rodon and, all these Seattle's got all these arms, Kirby, Castillo, they're Bassett and, why am I forget? Gosman. There's a lot of other arms in the race. I don't think they have enough pitching. Schedule is difficult. They're a decent team, and I don't think they're going to, go on some losing streak. I think they'll win high 80s, maybe 85 to 88 games, but I don't think it's going to be enough to make the playoffs. All right, next team.
Next team is the New York Yankees.
May have heard of them.
You may have heard of them. You already heard how I feel about them. I'm not even going to need 60 seconds. They're a dumpster fire all around. Time and time again, we've seen that they're absolutely nothing without Aaron Judge. They're way too consistent everywhere. Rizzo's been mad inconsistent. Torres, LeMahieu, Bader, even Volpe, Stan, they're all coin tosses in any given week or month. You never know what you're going to get. It's terrible. Something needs to seriously change. Same with their battered rotation. Even the bullpen with Holmes and Marinaccio have been ridiculously inconsistent. It's maddening to watch. And even a splash at the deadline is not going to do it for this team. They're cooked.
They're pieces away.
Many pieces.
Pieces.
They're
Plural.
Reese's pieces away.
Yeah.
Yankees. I mean, we know what you're going to say more or less, but go
Agreed.
ahead.
I mean, they're a bad team. They're just a bad team.
They are.
Without Aaron Judge, they're a bottom 10 team in the league, despite the elite arms. And then there's uncertainty around Aaron Judge. I mean, we're probably going to come back sometime soon, but we're not certain. There's bad vibes. There's bad offense. There's bad managing. There's bad ownership. I mean, they're just not very good. They're just not very good. They're not a very good team, and like I said, they need pieces. They're 4.4 runs a game right now. Every AL team in contention, Seattle, the Angels, Boston, Toronto, Houston, Tampa, Minnesota, they're scoring more runs a game than 4.4. The team was just built around the philosophy that Aaron Judge is God. And even though he has been, whatever God you believe in, if you believe in a God, he's been that good, it's still not good enough. They have no other offensive pieces. It's like Giancarlo Stanton held together by rubber bands. Bad team, not making the playoffs. Fire Aaron Boone.
Buzzer beater. All right, we got two more AL teams left. Next is the Los Angeles Angels. We both said all three of our teams, so right now we're just giving our reasons for out. I'm disappointed by the Angels, just like in terms of me wanting to root for them, but I'm not really that surprised. Trout's injured, Ohtani's going to be gone this time next week, and they've never been able to get it done with both of them on the field. They're sure as shit not going to do it with both of them off the field. To their credit, they have stayed competitive in a pretty tough division, but they just are not the same caliber of the teams that they're going up against. I love some pieces that they have in the bullpen, and if they're going to sell, they should sell them too. That's Carlos Estevez, that's Matt Moore, that's Jacob Webb, right? That's his name.
Yeah.
And I think if they're going to sell Ohtani, they might as well go all in and get pieces who are going to be good for you in the next 2 to 3 years. Please don't put your fans through another just maddening stretch of wasting away talent. That's all I have to say.
Fair. We'll agree again. I mean, the Angels, I think, are in arguably the most fluid situation of any team in the league right now. If they rattle off, I don't think there's any team that could, if they rattle off 6 in a row, they could buy, but they should sell. I think they will sell. Art Moreno, I think, is increasingly warming to the idea of trading Shohei Ohtani based on kind of the tea leaves, what guys in the media are saying. First it was,
love these expressions.
Yeah, right, thank you. First, we're not trading him. All right, we're listening to offers. I think the writing's kind of on the wall that if you're not buying, you kind of have to trade him. And they're 4 games out, and Trout is out. I don't think they're buying, so I don't think they're making the playoffs. They don't have good enough pitching. I will say one small thing I want to add. I think there is a chance that one of the most interesting domino-causing MLB events to happen is Mike Trout breaking a bone in his hand, because I think there's a chance they would have bought if Trout was healthy, and now I think they're going to trade Ohtani and they're going to miss the playoffs. Another buzzer beater, 2 in a row.
That was interesting, though. I wish I had time to say more about that. But I don't. We're talking about the Seattle Mariners. They disappoint me a lot. If you've been following my page since at least the beginning of this season, you know that I was very, very, very super high on Seattle, but things just have not panned out. They're an even 50-50 right now. 4th place in the division, 8% chance to make the postseason. It's just not going to happen. It would take not only an astronomical climb, but also a major collapse for all the teams in front of them for this to work. It's just simply not going to happen. I don't see it at this point in the season. Incredibly talented. Maybe next year. Don't change too much. Don't buy, don't sell. Just stand pat. Hope for the best next year. Seattle fans are used to that anyway. So, wow, 25 seconds left.
Yeah, take a breath. There you go.
Thank you.
The Seattle Mariners are the best team in the league at being incredibly average. They are the most average team in Major League Baseball. I mean, they're just so average. Their lineup strikes out way too much. I will make the same mistake you make. April, I'm going to buy the Seattle Mariners next year. And they're going to disappoint me again.
Yep.
And I love their pitching so much. I love Luis Castillo. I think George Kirby could win a Cy Young next year, but the problem is we're talking about this year, and this year they're so average. They're 10 games under 500 versus teams over 5. 10 games under 500 versus teams over 500. They can't beat good teams because they're not a good team. They're an average team. How many times am I going to say it? I think I've said it 9 times. I'll say it a 10th. Average teams don't make the playoffs. I said it 11 times. I think maybe 12. They're bad. They're average. They're not making the playoffs.
Like you said it 3 times in the first 5 seconds, and
Average,
I was going to interrupt
average.
you and say, take a shot every time Noah says average.
You'd be dead.
Wait. We need a quick transition to the National League.
Okay. I forgot that was
Take
the
a
last
breath.
AL
That was the
team.
last AL team. So just a quick recap. My 3 AL in teams are Tampa, Houston, Boston.
Will you give us quickly, the 6 teams that make the playoffs in order?
In
The
order.
AL.
Oh boy. Okay. I'm going to go.
I'm putting you on the spot.
Oh, you really are putting me on the spot. I'm going to go whoever wins the AL East has the best record. It's going to be either Tampa or Baltimore. Geez, man. I really want to say Baltimore. Fine, I'll just do it. I'm going to say Baltimore 1. Houston 2. I'm also going to take them for the division in the long run. Houston 2. 3, I guess, would be the central team of Minnesota. And then first wild card would be Tampa. Second wild card, Texas. Third wild card, Boston.
All right, I'm agreeing with you on the top 2. I'm going Baltimore and Houston. I'm agreeing in the top 3, actually, Minnesota as well, but who cares?
Yeah.
And then I'll go, I think Texas catches Tampa, actually gets the 4th seed. Tampa 5th seed, Toronto 6th seed. Lots of T's in that wild card position. How about this? I have Tampa as the 5th seed, very quickly. If the Tampa Bay Rays don't host one playoff game this season, that would be a disgrace after the way they started. Let's go to the NL.
Let's go to the NL, starting with the Cincinnati Reds. I'm wearing the jersey right now. I'm wearing the Ellie De La Cruz stand over here. However, it's so hard for me. I'm going to say out. I love this team and many
You're
of its
wearing the
players.
jersey,
I'm wearing the
out?
jersey. I'm going to say out. I mean, look what I'm wearing. This is tough. This is really, really hard for me. But sadly, I think they're going to have a Pirates-like trajectory just later in the season. The Pirates had maybe not as harsh a downfall because the Pirates are in last place now, behind the Cardinals. Ellie's a very dynamic player, and young studs like Matt McClain are not even getting enough press. But if you guys like Benson, Fraley, Steer have strong cool-off potential for me, I don't have confidence in the longevity of their very, very, very young team, especially the rotation. Super talented, but just too young to get it done long-term for me this season. The bullpen is elite, but they have been a generally lucky team, -4 run differential this season. I just think their others are going to catch up to them, and I don't think they're going to quite win the division. Milwaukee's going to edge them. Tough one. Cincinnati, you're out. Sorry.
Wow. He wears the jersey.
I know.
And he goes against them. Fake. What a world we
Dork.
live in. What a dork. Dork. I'm buying the Cincinnati Reds to make the playoffs, and I think they'll kind of maintain this pace. They might win 85, 86 games. It's more I'm selling the Milwaukee Brewers. They're 12 games over on one-run games. They're considered the luckiest team in the league, according to Baseball Reference, and I think they catch them in the Central. They have the assets to acquire pitching. It looks like they're going to try to move Jonathan India, or at least open to that idea, and they can acquire pitching. And their Abbott has been really good, and Hunter Green will come back, and they have some other young arms that are interesting that haven't been pitching well. I think they'll ride the momentum a little bit and make the playoffs. They've won. They're 6 games over on the road. I mean, they're going to sell out. I don't know if this is true, but they'll have a lot of fans at their home games. Lots of momentum at their home games the rest of the year. It's going to be tight the whole way. I think those young players will get them in the playoffs. Do I think they'll do anything in the playoffs? Probably not. I think they'll make it there.
Another buzzer beater. Arizona. I am calling in on the Diamondbacks. Cold streak. They've gotten a little cold, but I think they're going to sneak in. It's a tougher division, but I genuinely think that they're a better team than Cincinnati right now. More than half the lineup has an OPS plus above 100, and it's the offense that's going to carry them. The pitching rotation is not enough for a serious run once they get into the playoffs, but again, we're not talking about that right now. I see them as buyers at next week's deadline to address some of the needs that they still have and increase their odds. But I think obviously that's only going to help them. I don't know exactly what move they're going to make.Maybe it's for Ohtani. You never know. But I do like the Diamondbacks' chances right now. I'm going to say that they are in. They're going to be, spoiler alert, 3 playoff teams from the National League West.
Ooh, that is a spoiler alert. The Rockies?
Yes.
Just kidding. We're going to disagree again. I'm going to say no. The Arizona Diamondbacks do not make the playoffs. I just don't really buy, kind of similar to what you were saying about Cincinnati, I don't buy a lot of their success so far this year. I mean, the run differential isn't very good. I know that's not the end-all be-all. besides Gallen, I don't really buy anybody that throws on their entire team.
No.
The rest of the rotation is fine. I mean, he's been hurt too.
Yeah.
The bullpen has been horrible. And then they have a lot of guys who I like, but I don't think are necessarily going to maintain the pace they're on. Like, I love Christian Walker, I love Corbin Carroll. These guys are playing like both all-stars this year, and I think Corbin Carroll's in what?
You don't think Carroll can keep that up?
I don't think he'll keep up the pace he's on. I don't think he's going to fall off the earth. I think he'll still be a great player, and especially for Domo too. It's like they played out of their minds in the first half of the season, and they're half game in the playoffs. So I don't know if that'll continue. They'll buy, but we'll see.
All right. Next team is the Miami Marlins. Another tough out for me. I really like this team. They're fun, but they've been exposed recently. And as much as I wanted to see them keep up the hunt, they just don't have the talent or the experience yet. Arise isn't going to bat 400, it seems, at this point, which is sad. Brian De La Cruz was really hot for a while. Another De La Cruz. As he slowed down.
Jersey?
Yes, I'm wearing a Brian De La Cruz jersey.
Custom red one.
Yeah. Jorge Soler has slowed down as well a little bit, and the rotation is extremely talented, but has no longevity due to their young age. I just don't think it's enough, similar to Cincy's rotation, to keep it up in this long season. It's a tough race, and they also have the second toughest strength of schedule remaining in Major League Baseball. I think they're going to finish like right at 500.
Yeah, I totally agree. We'll finally agree. I think you put it very well. They've kind of been exposed a little bit recently. 8-game losing streak. They're really just not that talented of an offensive team. I know they have Arise and Soler, which is an awesome top two, but besides that, it's not a great lineup at all.
Garrett Cooper's okay.
I'm not calling the rest of their players trash, but it's just their other 7 remaining players. If you just made a lineup out of those 7 comparatively to other teams' 3 through 9 hitters, I don't think it's a very good lineup. I will say, if they can sneak into the playoffs, and you have Jesus, Luzardo, Sandy, and they call up Yuri Wembanyama. That's the 3rd straight episode I've said Yuri and Wembanyama in the same sentence, and I'll continue to do it. I think they have a scary rotation if they get there. I don't think they're good enough. I wouldn't be surprised to see them completely fall off the face of the earth, to be honest.
Yeah.
If they go 80 and 82, I wouldn't be shocked. I don't want to see it. I wouldn't be shocked.
Very fair. Next team is the San Francisco Giants. And I've been accused time and time again of being a San Francisco Giants hater, but I am redeeming myself. They are in for me. They're another splash-worthy team. No one predicted last episode that they get Ohtani. I don't know if that's necessarily going to happen, but they're going to make a big move. They're going to be buyers at next week's deadline. They look a lot like the Red Sox in the NL for me. Many underrated and underappreciated players. Webb and Cobb are both going to pitch well enough the rest of the season to get lower-end Cy Young votes. The bullpen has been very solid with the Rogers duo and Camilo Duvall, who is a top 5 reliever in baseball, in my opinion. Patrick Bailey has been surprisingly brilliant. Lamont Wade is playing a lot like he did in 2021, and he even got an MVP vote that year. Tyro Estrada, J.D. Davis, Michael Conforto, Jacques Peterson, all having solid seasons. Not enough to blow me away, but especially if they make a big move, I do think that the San Francisco Giants are going to sneak into the playoffs and grab one of those spots.
Yeah, I see it. I see it too. I as a Dodger fan, I know.
Agreeing again?
I'm agreeing again. As a Dodgers fan, I hate this because I said I thought Ohtani was going to go to the Giants last time. Giants fans are going to like me, and I hate that because I've been praising the Giants. And I'll do it again. I mean, Farhan Zaidi, he's one of the best general managers in the league. He can consistently, overperform with the players he has. I like Kapler. The bullpen, I think, is the biggest reason. Duvall has been awesome. The Rogers brothers have been great. I really trust that unit as much as I trust really any starting or starting pitchers or relievers as a unit in the National League, besides maybe Milwaukee's relievers. The lineup has been good. They pieced it together, with smaller names. I wouldn't be surprised to just see them make a smart move at the deadline and get a little bit better. And frankly, they only have to beat out a few teams at this point. I know they're on a 6-game losing streak. They'll turn it around and make the playoffs.
Man, you're really milking the clock here. Our final team in the National League end of the day is the Philadelphia Phillies. I gotta say they're in just because they look a lot like they did last year. People were counting them out this time last year. Look what they did. We all know. I don't need to repeat it. How many times have we seen this with them though? I mean, looking a lot, even like 2008. They're a team that middles. They middle until it really matters, and then they get hot. There's such tremendous talent on this team, and I think that once they catch fire, which is bound to happen, it's going to happen at some point this season, they're not going to let it go until they either win a World Series or die trying. I think the Philadelphia Phillies are going to make the playoffs.
And we will agree again, sadly. Wow, we're so agreeable.
It's
Look at us.
kind of upsetting.
I
don't
hate
like
agreeing with you. It makes me feel wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they're the most talented team in the NL mix, I think, pretty clearly. They have the arm. Zach Wheeler. Yeah, Zach Wheeler. And they wildcard mix. They're not as talented as Atlanta or LA. But, I mean, Zach Wheeler has been one of the least lucky pitchers in baseball this year. I would not be surprised if he kind of water finds his level and evens out and he joins the Cy Young mix. He's been really good besides the ERA, to be honest. I think Nola will turn it around. And to me, they have the very obvious fix, which is stop letting Kyle Schwarber play defense. Bryce Harper's now playing some games at first base. You can DH Schwarber, acquire a better defensive outfielder. I mean, Kyle Schwarber literally lost them a game last night versus the Orioles. I know that was a tough play. I'm just as good at fielding as him. I'm not in a major league organization in the playoff mix for good reason. Neither should he. They'll turn that around. They'll make the playoffs. I wanted to hear that noise. I just wanted to hear what the timer was. I could have gotten off. I wanted to hear what his timer was.
All right, so let's quickly recap our order for our NL teams. So I guess number 1 for me is going to be Braves, then the Dodgers, and then whoever wins the Central. I'm going to say
Cincinnati,
Milwaukee, and then I'm going to say Philly. I'm going to say Philly, San Francisco, Arizona.
Okay, I'm going to say San Francisco, Philly, Milwaukee.
Okay.
4, 5, 6.
All right.
Those are our playoff teams.
All right, we got about 9 minutes. Let's address these 3 favorite follower hot takes that we talked about before we recorded. We agreed on these.
Yes.
That we were going to talk about them. Number 1, from @ZayBay, XAY_BB.
Zaybaby.
Zaybaby.
I don't know.
So that's probably it.
Tell us the pronunciation if you're watching this.
Yeah, Zaybaby said their hot take that they submitted was that the Twins will win the World Series after standing pat at the deadline. What do we think about that one?
I mean, that's a hot take. I mean,
grade it.
It's like, okay, A as in hot.
A as in yes, you like it, you agree.
Okay. I'm gonna give it a C-. I think Minnesota is actually a very underrated team right now, and I think the playoffs, anything can happen. And I love their arms. I love their rotation. But they're not going to win the World Series. I mean, I like the idea of being, if you were a gambler, putting some money on Minnesota to overperform, what the numbers and the lines say, but they're not winning a World Series. I wouldn't be shocked if they win a few playoff games, maybe win a series, but they don't have the offense to do that. They just don't. I know anything can happen, but they don't.
All right, I'm going to give this one a C+. He went C-, I'm going C+, and that's just because I'm a very firm believer in once you're in the playoffs, anything can happen. And the fact that pitching in the playoffs is key, proven time and time again. No, I'm going to boost this to a B-. I like this take just because, really anything can happen once you're in the playoffs. Is anybody legitimately predicting this to happen right now other than Zaybaby? Probably not, no. But I like it. It's exciting. I'm going to say why not, because once you're in, and that's all that matters. They got players on that team who have playoff experience. Like you said, the rotation is pretty elite, you got Gray, you got Ryan, you got a few others, and who are all putting up really good seasons. I like this take. I'm going to say B- on it because it's still a long shot, but as far as hot takes go, it's a good level of spiciness for me. Mm-hmm. It's a amount of spicy that I can handle. It's a medium. My tummy.
It's a medium buffalo wing?
Medium buffalo wing. Maybe boring. I'm like
a poblano pepper.
I'm not familiar.
Okay. Catch up. Wake up.
Next hot take.
Nice segue.
Thank you. Submitted by Will Harper _15. Felix Bautista wins the American League Cy Young. Spicy.
This is spicy, and I love it. I'm gonna give it an A+. I love this take. It's not even close. Felix Bautista is the best pitcher in Major League Baseball.
Jeez,
it is not even. I mean, this season has been the best pitcher in Major League Baseball. He's thrown a lot less innings, and it's a whole nother argument. Kind of closer. Does a closer have enough value to win Cy Young? We saw Eric Gagne win Cy Young in 2003, I believe, for the Dodgers.
I wonder when the last time that happened was.
Yeah, he was fantastic. 50 saves, I think, with like an ERA about
20 years ago.
20 years ago, the game has changed. I know this. Will he win? He probably will not win the American League Cy Young, but nobody's running away with it in the American League. He's the only guy who who really has just been just A+ the entire year in performance-wise. I mean, the guy is so responsible for the Orioles' success. They have the best record in the American League. I mean, I think he's as important as any pitcher in the league. I know the Yankees are not very good even with Garrett Cole, and they have Rodon. It's like the Orioles just and we're gonna see it in October too, assuming they can win a series or two. They're gonna throw this guy in the 7th whenever they need to because he's that valuable. And I know the closer, can a closer win a Cy Young? I mean, I get the opposition to that. They don't throw as many innings. But this guy has just flat out been the best pitcher in baseball the entire season. So I don't see why not. Why can't he win a Cy Young?
I think he can't win a Cy Young because we're in an age of baseball where relief pitchers can't win a Cy Young. Did you grade it?
I give it an A+.
A+. Wow. Okay. I'm gonna give it a B+. Because I like it a lot. I think that even if he's deserving, though, it's just not going to happen. The voters aren't going to do it. I mean, you saw in 2021. Okay, so a tool I like to use all the time is the ESPN Cy Young Predictor. It's a formula created, I believe, by Mr. Sabermetrics himself, Bill James, to predict the Cy Young winners. And in 2021, Liam Hendricks of the White Sox actually was, by the model, running away with the American League Cy Young, and obviously he did not win it that year. But it's a pretty accurate model. I mean, they had Verlander at 1 last year. Surprisingly, Kyle Wright of the Braves as number 1 last year, even though Alcantara obviously ran away with it. So, I don't think that the model always gets it right, but Felix Bautista is number 1 in the American League on the Cy Young predictor right now. But, no matter how good he is, unless he's like really, really just insanely next level and there's nobody even close, I don't think that he's going to get enough votes to do it.
All right.
So I'm going to give this one a B+.
All right. I understand the argument, but I want to push back why I think it's possible. It's such a small chance, but I think it's possible. Edwin Diaz last year, top 10 in Cy Young voting. ERA 1.31. Bautista's got to beat by about 40 points ERA-wise.
That's just insane.
Yeah. And we know how good Edwin Diaz was. Unbelievable last year. He got all these votes. Top 10 with the worst ERA, and the Mets were worse. The Orioles, if things stand pat, are going to be the number 1 seed in the American League. They're going to it's
get votes. Look at votes. You're almost convincing me, but I'm not quite ready to come around yet.
The WHIP is just as good as it was last year, and I don't think the NL Cy Young race was pretty awesome last year. I mean, Sandy. I don't think anybody in the AL is pitching as well as Sandy pitched last year. I think it's possible. No one's running away with it. I mean, if it might take, like, McClanahan was injured for a little bit, Castillo hasn't been super consistent. Gosman, I mean, I would give it to Bautista over Gosman right now, just because of consistency. Every time this guy,
Gosman hasn't been consistent.
Yeah, but I mean, who else are you putting up there? Every time that this guy goes out there, he's doing what's asked of him, and he's locking the game down for a team that's won more games than anybody in the league.
You're not wrong. You're making me come around a little bit. He's going to win Delivery Man of the Year, but I'm not quite ready to give him the Cy Young, even if he does deserve it, for the reasons I already said. Final follower hot take of the day, submitted by @Jonah Ainley. Verlander back to the Houston Astros. I like this one a lot. This is my A+. He's exactly what they need. It'd be just so exciting for that team, too. And obviously the Astros didn't want to pay him. That's why they didn't sign him. But it's been said that if the Mets are going to trade him, they're going to have to pay almost all of his contract, which I think is if they want an impact player in return, which, I think is possible. I think it's the kind of crazy shit that Steve Cohen would possibly consider. And Verlander obviously has a no trade, but I think if he was going to waive it to go anywhere, it would be back to the Astros to win another World Series. So that's my A+.
That's your A+.
Yeah. Okay, we're keeping this under an hour. You got 1 minute.
All right, this is gonna be my worst grade, actually. I'm gonna give it a D. I just don't think it makes sense on a lot of levels. For one, I don't think Steve Cohen is going to be able to truly have a fire sale. I don't think he'll have enough. I don't think he'll be able to swallow his pride like that, just in a psychological sense. Two, we just saw Verlander leave Houston. Rarely do you see a team, he didn't get offered the money he wanted to stay in Houston, Now he's gonna waive his no trade to go back.
He's getting paid.
He's getting
Doesn't
paid.
care.
Yeah, but he's getting paid. He's getting paid in New York. He's getting paid wherever he is. I also don't think the Astros want him on the books next year. He's on a 2-year, $86 million contract. You mentioned Mets will pay their fair share of that, but I just don't think with the injuries. I mean, Garcia will be back. Urquidy will be back. McCullers will be back. They're hoping to turn Javier around next year. Like, I just don't think they really want him next year. I do think they'll buy starting pitching. I think this one is a little just romantic for the sake of Justin Verlander going back to Houston. I think there's other starters that make a bunch more sense. This he's old, and I don't know if he can handle another postseason. There's a plethora of reasons, as I said. I don't like it. I'm giving it a D.
All right, well, that wraps things up. Thank you for listening. Enjoy the trade deadline next week. This is our final recording before the trade deadline. Follow on Instagram if you're not already. I don't know where the heck you'd be coming from if you weren't, but that's at the worst MLB on Instagram. We'll be back probably 2 weeks and then another episode. Thank you so much.
Post trade deadline.
Enjoy your weekend.
Peace.